So my prediction that this title would remain #1 was, well, pretty much right as I expected. Hello everybody, and welcome to another weekly countdown of the top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan. I'm Justice R. Stone, and my channel is completely dedicated to light novels, news, reviews, countdowns like this one, as well as the light novel podcast. So if you love light novels, or maybe you're just starting to get interested in them, you should subscribe. Sales not exactly incredible on this week's list. We only have one title that hit 5 digits in terms of its sales, which would be the #1 title. Now, that said, next week's list is going to be a whole different kind of ballgame, because this tiny title known as Sword Art Online is releasing its first new volume in a good long while. In fact, it's the first volume of new material that wasn't covered by the web novel. So I can tell you right now that puppy's going to be #1 next week. The only question is, how many copies will it sell? In any case, let's get to this week's list, and we'll worry about next week when that happens. At number 10, with 5,479 copies sold, Volume 6 of Youseiryuu wo Kainarase. This one, there's no English language license, and honestly, there's no English language information about this series. And, like, look at this cover. It's creepy. Yeah, I mean, looking at the other covers of this series, it kind of looks like the sort of shoujo, maybe even a BL title. It's really hard to tell, especially with the creepy baby. Oh, I don't even want to know. But anyway, this, I'm just going to read you the Google Translate. I'm going to read you what Google Translate gave me of the first volume's synopsis, because it's so weird that I mean, I can't even. I can't even. And it's entertaining, so I'm going to read it to you. Due to his ability to hear the voice of the animal's heart, Jun is a high school student who grew up as a vegetarian. It was the strongest dinosaur, the dinosaurs who inherit the genes of Tyrannosaurus, the dragon fear await that watched the superb blood, fear of having the ability to conform human beings with the power of that gene, tries to dominate as a slave by forcibly transferring Jun to a school of a dormitory system where dinosaur people gather in order to feed Jujun. There's dinosaur people, there's a guy who can hear animals. I can't, I don't know. If you feel up to the challenge of looking at this one and giving a somewhat more sensible or sensical answer to what this thing is about, I'd appreciate it. You can leave that in the comments down below. At number 9, with 5,515 copies sold, Volume 10 of Hisshou Dungeon Unei Houhou, or The Way to Absolute Dungeon Administration. There is no English license for these light novels. One day, on a sunny, leisurely day, a woman visited my house and asked me if I was interested in managing a dungeon along with support offered from a goddess. But of course, I refused. I shouldn't ignore a person in trouble? Moreover, if it's a beautiful woman? No way. That's too bothersome. Why do I have to do that? I'm perfectly satisfied with my comfortable life now. Throwing it away is just overly stupid. Fine. So it's go to another world, become a dungeon master, manage a dungeon, and deal with the mana circulation problem? Understood. But how to do it? So basically it's another in the long line of dungeon management isekai type novels, I guess sort of a subset of isekai or a specialization of isekai? I don't know. Anyway, we really, as far as I can recall, only have 2 titles, at least that I've read, that are in this vein, and that's Strongest Gamer from Soul Press and Lazy Dungeon Master from J-Novel Club. I don't know if we're going to get a whole lot more of these, just based on what I've seen in terms of what's been licensed so far. It doesn't seem like it's as high a priority as the more adventurer type isekai that we commonly get. At number 8, with 5,690 copies sold, Volume 13 of Rokudenashi Majutsu Koushi to Akashic Records. Or, as the anime and manga have been released in English, Akashic Records of the Bastard Magical Instructor. We do have the manga, and we do have a 12-episode anime. We do not have a license for the light novels. This one about a magical academy, and the fact that they get a new instructor who just seems to be a really lazy, incompetent bastard. But I'm sure, you know, in typical light novel / manga / anime type fashion, he's probably a lot more than what he appears to be. I don't know, because I haven't watched the anime, because I keep kind of thinking that maybe we'll get this licensed eventually, but so far that hasn't happened. At number 7, with 6,529 copies sold, Volume 10 of Kenja no Deshi wo Nanoru Kenja, or She Professed Herself the Pupil of the Wiseman. We do not have an English license for this series. In one of the worlds that exist within virtual reality, Kagame held the title of one of the 9 sages, a position that placed him at the pinnacle of magicians. One day, he fell asleep in-game after pulling an all-nighter. When he opened his eyes, what he found was a world that was different to the one before. More important than anything else was that the grizzled and dignified veteran's body that he was used to had now turned into an innocent little girl's? If his true identity was leaked, honestly speaking, it was a situation where it was very possible that the solemn image he had built up until now would be destroyed. And to deal with this problem, the excuse that he came up with was that he was the pupil of that magician, at least I'm guessing based on the title of the series. So again, this is a isekai, I was taken from a virtual video game that I was playing and found myself in a real world that seems to be like the video game. Although I guess, again, the twist on this one is that instead of being in his usual avatar, he finds himself as a cute young girl. I've in other explanations that are like blurbs that I've read about this series, it seems like there's also sort of a mechanic that before he falls asleep after the all-nighter, that in order to use up some credits that are expiring or some such thing, he purchases this special item that allows you to change your avatar. So that might play into this whole thing. I don't know. I don't really know much about the series because we don't have anything of it available in English officially. So I don't know. I mean, if you're familiar with the series, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. At number 6, with 6,860 copies sold, Volume 2 of Deokure Tamer no Sono Higurashi. Now, this one we do not have licensed in English, which, I mean, kind of is typical with it only having 2 volumes. Not always, but it's more often than not. What's notable about this one is that it's actually the same author as I Was a Sword When I Reincarnated, which if you watch these videos regularly, you know that title often ends up in the top 10 list when a new volume releases. There's not a lot of information available in English, obviously, because this is a newer series. But basically, the synopsis of it is that it follows a character who logs into a VR MMO and chooses the job title of Tamer so that he can, like, summon and tame monsters. But what he doesn't realize is that during the beta test, people basically determined that that skill was absolutely garbage and useless. And sure enough, when he logs into the game, he realizes that he lags behind a lot of other players and dies numerous times. And so he decides that instead of being a frontline warrior or whatever, that he is actually going to make use of the abilities of monsters to become a production character, so producer of goods and items. So it sounds like it's kind of in that line of the VR MMO type series where a character chooses to have a more laid-back existence. I imagine what's probably going to end up happening is that he will become somehow ridiculously OP, or his items will be ridiculously OP because he's going about it in a way that most people wouldn't think about. That would be sort of the typical light novel type of thing. If any of you are familiar with this series, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. At number 5, with 7,019 copies sold, Volume 6 of Last Embryo. We do not have a license for this light novel series. It's actually a sequel series to Problem Children Seem to Be Coming from Another World, which did have a 10-episode anime adaptation, but again, the original light novel series that was based on never came over to English audiences either. Saigo Homura, a youth holding a little unique ability, received a single mail. The moment he opened that mail, Homura was summoned to another world. It was a world ruled by the games of gods and demons called gift games. Homura, who met a lovely Usamimi lolly Kuru Usagi, has unexpectedly ended up participating in a super large-scaled gift game. He, along with Ayazato Suzuka and Kudo Ayato, who were summoned together with him, and Izayoi Sakamaki, who he reunited with after 5 years, will challenge the game of fighting gods and Buddhas that even rolled up the real world in it. It's kind of a messy synopsis, but you kind of get the general idea. It's a character who has some kind of gift that's brought into another world to participate in the games of gods. I'm not really familiar with this series or obviously its prequel series. What are your, like, if you're familiar with this, I'd be kind of curious though, like, how much of a sequel is this series? Like, is it kind of using the same ideas? Is it just that it's set in the same world? Or is it using, like, a number of the same characters? I'd be curious to know, because I don't have that much information. At number 4, with 7,850 copies sold, Volume 12 of Seirei Gensoki, or Seirei Gensoki Spirit Chronicles is how J-Novel Club is releasing it in English. They are going to be releasing the 3rd volume in English on February 4th of 2019. Meet Ryo, a callous orphaned boy living in the slums. At only 7 years old, he realizes he's actually the reincarnation of Haruto Amakawa, a Japanese university student with a tragic past. While still reeling from this shocking epiphany, Ryo also comes to learn that he possesses extremely potent magical abilities and uses his new powers to solve the kidnapping case of a little girl. His good deed is acknowledged, and he's rewarded by being enrolled into a prestigious academy for noble children? That's the J-Novel Club synopsis of this one. I have, like, read other blurbs from other sites that I guess Ryo doesn't exactly have a great past either, and it's very much like a class drama in terms of initially because he's poor and he goes to this school for nobles and nobody will accept him, and I don't even know how long the school element of it actually even plays out. Again, I haven't had a chance to even read the first volume of this. I did actually buy it during Boxing Week, so I got it for about 30% or so off, which is kind of cool. So I will be reviewing it in the new year, so I'll have maybe a little bit more information on it then. What are your thoughts? Like, I've heard some really mixed reviews, especially about the first volume. Kind of curious about those of you who have been reading it. What are your thoughts? And what are your thoughts particularly if you've read sort of beyond, like, later volumes in the series as well? At number 3, with 8,245 copies sold, Volume 27 of Mahoka Koko no Reitose, or as we have it in English, The Irregular at Magic High School. Of course, we have the anime, we've got the manga, and we've got the light novels, all in English. The light novels currently are being released by Yen On, and they are going to be releasing volume 10 on December 18th, so pretty soon, actually. And this one, of course, the high school magic drama series about a brother and sister who enroll in a magic high school in a world where magic has become sort of another form of technology. The girl is a prodigy, the boy is seen as being a lesser extent, but, well, we all know again just how these anime, light novel, manga stories go. There's more to the brother than meets the eye. An extremely popular series, extremely popular, selling ridiculous amounts of copies. I mean, this one alone has sold almost 110,000 copies since its release, and I think most of their volumes sell about that same range. At number 2, with 8,250 copies sold, Kido Senshi Gundam NT. This one we talked about last week. It is the novel adaptation of the film of the same name, which is kind of odd because that itself is based on the 11th volume of the Gundam Unicorn novel series, which served as the inspiration for the Gundam Unicorn anime series, and it just goes round and round and round. Anyway, so yeah, so basically there was the Gundam Unicorn light novels. They were then adapted into anime. They've now taken another volume of the light novel, adapted that into a movie, and I guess the movie was changed enough that they've put out a light novel that's based on the movie. I don't know how much material was new or changed, or whether they've basically just repackaged volume 11 of the Unicorn series. Chances are they've based it kind of like that you can watch the anime of Unicorn and then carry on into this movie, so there's probably some things that have been omitted or changed or altered, just the way that adaptations usually do, so maybe that's how it's different. I'm not too sure. If you have any further information on it, I'd love to hear about that in the comments down below. Basically, the story of this one, it seems, is that after 2 years of peace, when all the Gundams have been locked away and are supposed to be sealed up, a Gundam starts wreaking havoc again, and it's about the former two opponents joining together to hunt down this rogue Gundam. Finally, at number 1, with 21,956 copies sold, so a very commanding lead in the number 1 spot. Volume 13 of Yahari Ore no Seishun Love Comedy wa Machigateru. Or as we have it in English, My Youth Romantic Comedy is Wrong as I Expected. This one licensed by Yen On. They're releasing volume 7 on February 19th of 2019. There was a 26 episode anime which covered volumes 1 to 11. This one is coming to an end actually with volume 14. The next volume will be the completion of this series. The series follows main character Hachiman, who is very cynical about youth and about the way the world works, and because of his horrible attitude, his teacher decides to force him into a service club, and the whole point of the club is to help students deal with their problems. And, well, there's other kind of misfits and stuff in the club, and it's just about their adventures and how their personalities and relationships change because of the influence of each other and the club's activities and such like that. It's actually a really solid and really good slice of life novel series that I've read the first 3 volumes so far. I've got to get myself caught up because I really do enjoy it. Hachiman is a very unique character, and the series is told in his first person narration, which it really makes it, like, his voice just absolutely is what makes the series. This week I want to say a special thanks to Renzaz, FixLab.com, Michaela Werner, and Patrick Mbaihi for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all of my other patrons whose support allows me to keep buying novels to review here on the channel, as well as to pay for additional hosting for the Light Novel podcast, and to pay for upgrades to my equipment, which I did make a couple months ago, but I'm still paying for. So no doubt Sword Art Online Volume 21 is going to be number 1 next week. The question is, how many copies will it sell? I'll find out when I come back here with my next video In the meantime, thanks for joining me in this one. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.